Imagine a world where the moon could control your destiny, where the cycles of the moon dictated when you planted your crops, when you celebrated your festivals, and even when you married. This might sound like a scene from a science fiction movie, but for ancient civilizations, the moon was a powerful force that shaped their lives in ways we can hardly imagine today. The moon, with its mesmerizing glow and regular phases, was the first clock humanity ever knew. But it was also a trap, a tempting yet unreliable guide that led people to seek more accurate ways to measure time. This is the story of how the moon and the stars shaped human history, and how we finally broke free from their ancient hold. From the frozen tundras of Greenland to the distant deserts of Patagonia, the new moon was a time of celebration. People sang, danced, and prayed, marking the beginning of a new cycle. The Eskimos would spread a feast, their shamans would perform rituals, and even the lamps would be extinguished as a sign of renewal. In Africa, the Bushmen would chant, "Young moon, hail, hail, young moon." The moon's phases were a universal language, understood by all, regardless of culture or language. The moon's influence extended beyond just celebrations. The word moon in English and its cognates in other languages are rooted in the base me, meaning measure. This connection is not coincidental. The moon was the first universal measurer of time. Its phases, which repeat every 5 days, provided a natural way to divide the year into manageable segments. But while the moon was a helpful guide, it was also a deceptive one. The cycles of the moon and the cycles of the sun are not in sync, and this mismatch would lead to significant problems for early civilizations. The moon's cycles were convenient, but they were not sufficient for the needs of farmers and hunters. While the phases of the moon could be seen easily, they did not align with the seasons. Farmers needed to know when to plant their crops, when to expect rain or snow, and when the first frost would come. The moon offered little help in predicting these crucial events. A solar year, the time it takes for the Earth to orbit the Sun, is 365, 25 days, while a lunar year, based on the moon's cycles, is only 354 days. This 11-day difference meant that a purely lunar calendar would quickly fall out of sync with the seasons. The ancient Babylonians, for example, stuck with a lunar calendar, but they faced significant challenges. They tried to adjust their calendar by adding extra months, a process called intercalation. This approach was cumbersome and often led to confusion. The Greek historian Herodotus described how the Greek calendar, which used intercalation, led to unpredictable events and made it difficult to plan for the future. The Babylonian and Greek experiences show that while the moon was a useful tool, it was not a reliable one for long-term planning. The Egyptians, however, found a way to break free from the moon's deceptive cycles. They developed a calendar based on the solar year, which provided a more accurate way to predict the seasons. The Nile River, the lifeblood of Egypt, played a crucial role in this breakthrough. The annual flooding of the Nile, which brought rich silt to the fields, was a reliable indicator of the changing seasons. The Egyptians observed that the star Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, would rise in the morning just before the sun at the same time as the Nile's flood. This heliacal rising of Sirius became the starting point of their year. The Egyptian calendar was simple yet effective. It consisted of 12 months of 30 days each, with an additional 5 days added at the end of the year to make a total of 365 days. This calendar, known as the civil year, or Nile year, was used as early as 4241 B.C. and served the practical needs of the Egyptian people for thousands of years. The Egyptian calendar was so accurate and useful that it was adopted by Julius Caesar to create the Julian calendar, which became the standard for the Western world. Despite the Egyptian breakthrough, the moon retained its mystic and religious significance. Many cultures, including the Egyptians themselves, continued to use the lunar cycle for religious festivals and ceremonies. The Jews, for example, have a lunar calendar that is used for religious observances. Each Jewish month begins with the appearance of a new moon, and an extra month is added in leap years to keep the calendar in sync with the solar year. The Jewish calendar is a complex system that has been studied and refined over centuries, becoming a focus of rabbinical scholarship. Christianity, which followed the Jewish tradition, also retained ties to the lunar calendar. The date of Easter, one of the most important Christian holidays, is determined by the phases of the moon. According to the English Book of Common Prayer, Easter is celebrated on the first Sunday, after the full moon that occurs on or after March 21st. This means that Easter can fall anywhere between March 22nd and April 25th. The complexity of the lunar calendar led to disagreements and even schisms within the Christian Church. The Council of Nicaea, held in 325 A.D., attempted to standardize the date of Easter, but disagreements persisted, and different regions continued to observe Easter on different dates. The Julian calendar, which was based on the Egyptian calendar, was accurate for its time, but it was not perfect. The actual solar year is 365, 2,425 days, and the Julian calendar assumed a year of 365, 25 days. This small discrepancy, of about 11 minutes per year, accumulated over time, causing the calendar to drift out of sync with the seasons. By the 16th century, the vernal equinox, which marks the beginning of spring, was occurring 10 days earlier than it should have been. Pope Gregory XIII, a 16th century reformer, recognized the need to correct this error. In 1582, he introduced the Gregorian calendar, which we still use today. The Gregorian calendar made a one-time correction by skipping 10 days in October, so that October 4th was followed by October 15th. To prevent the calendar from drifting again, the Gregorian calendar introduced a new rule for leap years. Leap years would occur every 4 years, except for years that are divisible by 100 but not by 400. This means that the year 2000 was a leap year, but 1900 was not. The Gregorian reform was not immediately accepted by all countries. Protestant countries, including England and its colonies, initially refused to adopt the new calendar because it came from the Catholic Church. It was not until 1752 that England and its colonies made the switch, skipping 11 days to align with the Gregorian calendar. This change affected important dates, such as George Washington's birthday, which moved from February 11th to February 22nd. Today, the Gregorian calendar is the standard for the Western world, but the moon's influence is still felt in various cultures. The Islamic calendar, for example, is a purely lunar calendar, with each month beginning with the sighting of the new moon. This means that the Islamic year is about 11 days shorter than the solar year, and Islamic festivals like Ramadan move through the seasons over time. The study of time and calendars continues to evolve. Scientists and astronomers are constantly refining our understanding of the solar system and the universe. The search for a more accurate way to measure time has led to the development of atomic clocks, which are so precise that they can measure the passage of time to within a few billionths of a second. The moon, with its ancient cycles and mystical allure, was the first clock humanity ever knew. It shaped the lives of our ancestors, providing a way to mark the passage of time and organize their societies. But the moon's cycles were not enough, and the search for a more accurate way to measure time led to the development of the solar calendar. The Egyptians, with their Nile-based calendar, and the later reforms of Pope Gregory XIII, created the foundation for the modern calendar we use today. The moon's influence, however, endures, reminding us of the ancient connection between the sky and human history. As we continue to explore the mysteries of the universe, the moon remains a symbol of our ongoing journey to understand time and our place in the cosmos.